A few years ago, researchers ran an experiment on software engineers. They gave developers AI coding assistants and tracked what happened to their productivity. The assumption going in was straightforward. The better the engineer, the bigger the boost. More expertise, more leverage. That's not what happened. Junior developers sped up by roughly 35 to 40% on structured tasks. Senior engineers, the people with years of experience, deep architectural knowledge, and the highest salaries, sometimes got slower. Not slightly slower, measurably slower. And when researchers dug into why, the answer turned out to be more unsettling than anyone expected. Here's the question this video is going to answer. In an economy being restructured around artificial intelligence, is it possible that the traits we've spent decades treating as survival advantages, deep expertise, elite credentials, high cognitive achievement, are starting to work against us? The answer, based on a growing body of evidence, is yes. But not for the reason most people assume. Start with the developers. Why did the senior engineers slow down? It wasn't because AI made them incompetent. It was because their expertise created friction. Experienced engineers knew enough to catch what juniors missed. They spent time verifying hallucinated outputs, reviewing whether AI-generated code was architecturally sound, refactoring suggestions that looked correct on the surface but failed at scale. Meanwhile, junior developers didn't carry that weight. They didn't know enough to second-guess every output. They moved fast, iterated fast, and produced fast, because they had no established mental model to defend. The bottleneck in software engineering shifted. It used to be, can you generate the code? Now, it's, can you evaluate it? And the people best equipped to evaluate were also the people most burdened by doing so. That's the first crack in the foundation. But this isn't just a coding story. The same pattern is playing out across high-skill professions simultaneously. In law, recent benchmarking studies found frontier AI systems outperforming human baselines on large portions of standardized legal research tasks. Junior associates using AI could draft summaries faster, search precedents faster, and produce first-pass memos in a fraction of the time that same work used to take. For decades, junior legal labor justified its cost through information retrieval and synthesis. AI now automates exactly that layer. In management consulting, a BCG experiment involving 758 consultants using GPT-4 found that lower-performing consultants gained proportionally more from AI assistance than elite performers on structured analytical tasks. AI compressed the gap between average and high performers because many forms of strategic structuring and information synthesis became partially automated. Notice the pattern. In each case, AI doesn't attack from the bottom. It moves straight into the middle, the layer where expertise is most credentialized, most expensive, and most reliant on tasks that now take seconds to replicate. To understand why this is happening, you have to understand something about how AI actually works, and where its capabilities are genuinely strange. Researchers use a phrase to describe the uneven capabilities of frontier AI systems, the jagged frontier. AI doesn't replace human cognition in a smooth, predictable way. It creates an irregular landscape. It can perform brilliantly at some complex tasks, then fail completely at something that seems far simpler. The frontier isn't a straight line, it's jagged. The problem this creates for experts is that humans are extremely poor at predicting where AI will succeed or fail. We assume difficulty should map to AI limitations. It often doesn't. The BCG study found this clearly. Consultants trusted AI most on tasks where it performed best, but they also trusted it when it was confidently wrong. And the more cognitively confident a person was in their own expertise, the more vulnerable they were to that failure. Fluent, sophisticated-sounding output creates what researchers call automation complacency. And this is where the deeper issue starts to come into view. Think about what elite education and elite professional training actually optimize for. Precision, procedural correctness, stable frameworks, narrow specialization, optimizing within known rules. There's a concept in machine learning called overfitting. An overfit model trains so specifically on its existing data that it performs brilliantly on familiar patterns, then breaks when conditions change. It memorizes rather than generalizes. The same thing happens to people. Lawyers optimized for document production face AI automation. Analysts optimized for structured reporting compete against instant AI synthesis. Programmers who spent years memorizing syntax lose their advantage to code generation tools. Academics trained for narrow specialization struggle when the system they trained for starts changing faster than specialized expertise can adapt. The people most vulnerable aren't the least intelligent. They're often the most intelligent, in a specific, credential-dependent, framework-bound way. They built careers on the assumption that their expertise was scarce. AI made it abundant overnight. And here's the part that doesn't get discussed enough. AI isn't just automating individual jobs. It's removing an entire layer of the organizational economy. Workforce analytics data from the years following 2022 showed middle management hiring falling significantly faster than both executive hiring and entry-level operational hiring. The roles disappearing fastest aren't at the bottom. They're in the middle. Middle managers, analysts, coordinators, administrative strategists, the people who historically translated information between leadership and execution. AI increasingly performs that translation directly. The economy isn't simply automating the bottom, it's compressing the middle. And the middle was exactly where the majority of credentialed, high IQ knowledge workers built their careers. This creates a strange new reality. Executives remain. Frontline workers remain. The organizational structure looks intact from the outside. But internally, the cognitive middle, the layer that once carried so much of the economic value, is hollowing out. So why do some people navigate this and others don't? This is the part the data keeps pointing to, and it keeps landing in the same place. It's not about intelligence, it's about rigidity. Researchers found that novices in AI experiments often outperformed experts in adaptation speed, not because they were more capable, but because they had fewer prior assumptions to defend. They questioned AI outputs more aggressively, they experimented more freely. They didn't arrive with an identity built around being the person who generates the answers. Experts, by contrast, often used AI conservatively, fitting it into old workflows instead of redesigning workflows around it. They arrived with years of accumulated status tied to specific cognitive skills that AI was suddenly replicating. And psychologically, that's a destabilizing thing to confront. This shows up repeatedly in commentary from AI researchers and organizational psychologists. The people struggling most are often the people whose professional identity depended on being the smartest person in the room. That's not a capability problem, it's an adaptation problem. And those are different problems with different solutions. Here's what this actually means. The industrial knowledge economy rewarded stored knowledge, procedural reasoning, credentialed expertise, stable specialization, the traits that got you through elite institutions, elite professional programs, and elite firms. The AI economy is shifting toward a completely different set of scarce traits. Agency, the ability to act in ambiguous environments where the rules keep changing. Judgment, knowing when AI is wrong, shallow, or confidently hallucinating. Adaptability, rebuilding your mental models as the tools evolve, repeatedly, without it feeling like an identity crisis. Taste, recognizing what's actually good versus what's merely fluent. Curiosity, asking better questions rather than generating better answers. These aren't traits that elite credentialing systems historically valued most. In many cases, the education systems that produced the highest achieving professionals actively screened for the opposite. Precision over exploration, optimization over flexibility, correctness within stable frameworks over creativity in unstable ones. And now, the environment changed. The deepest shift isn't about specific jobs or specific industries. It's about what intelligence means as an economic resource. For most of modern history, intelligence was valuable partly because it was scarce. Not everyone could synthesize information quickly. Not everyone could structure a legal argument, or architect a software system, or model a financial scenario. That scarcity was what the credential was certifying. AI made structured cognition abundant. When something abundant becomes cheap, what was already scarce becomes more valuable. And what becomes scarce in a world of cheap cognition is the capacity to direct it, to question it, to reconfigure yourself around it when the tools shift again, which they will. The senior developer who slowed down wasn't failing because they were less capable. They were failing because they were optimizing for a bottleneck that had already moved. The people thriving aren't necessarily the most credentialed or the highest IQ. They're the ones who figured out that intelligence was never the final destination. It was always just a tool, and now there are better tools. The question isn't whether you're smart, it's whether you're the kind of smart that adapts when the rules change. Because in this particular moment, that distinction is everything.